Hello and welcome to another episode of Empowering Discussions with a Disabled Man. I'm your host and the creator of Wheels and Warriors, Michael Hummel. Today we have Maria LiPuma. She is the creator of Body Confidence Solutions. She helps women who achieve their goals, health and fitness goals. Naturally, she helps them achieve their weight, food from freedom from. She helps them step into their lives with more confidence and esteem. I'm going to bring her in a second. Here she goes. Hello.
Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Looking forward to this.
Me too. Thanks so much for inviting me
You're
to
welcome.
your program.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good.
So to
Yeah.
start off, is there anything, any questions you have for me or something you'd like to share about how disability has affected your life?
Yeah. I guess I could start off with some questions. First off, I love that you're doing this program. I think it's been, it's just a wonderful intention to just even bring more awareness. I think it's so valuable for us to start to understand other people's human experience. We all have very different human experiences,
Yeah, I agree.
and yeah, and how is this? This is, I guess, not so much about the disability piece, but how has this been flowing? The conversations, having these, has this been? Have you noticed that it's been helpful and in
I
raising
think so.
awareness and
I think so. I've gotten good feedback from the people who have gone into the show, into the lives and watched, and I gotten good feedback from the guests I've had. Said they enjoyed themselves and they've learned. So that's the point.
yeah, yeah. So
So
is the overall intention to bring more support to or more acceptance to people that have disabilities?
it's to educate able-bodied people on how to interact with, perceive, and just help disabled people, or what they should and shouldn't do, and um, let them know that it's okay to ask questions, but also let them know that they might not get an answer, because some people don't like to talk about their disability, and that's fine. So it's just a matter of bringing them together, which is one of the other points I wanted to make, and one of the purposes of the show is to bring able-bodied people and disabled people together and just create a community.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you appreciate being asked questions. Is that
Yeah,
true? I know that. Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
think that
My tagline for for Wheels and Warriors is start a conversation to end the stigma.
yeah, that's great.
Because I think if you ask questions, you learn, and then eventually you'll get to a point where you don't need to ask questions. It'll just be natural, and it'll just be like conversational, and you'll have that willingness to meet each other, talk with each other, and know about each other, which will break things down.
Yeah, which is great. Which is
Yeah,
great.
I
That's
think.
wonderful. I think that that is empowering to just release any block, just to keep the flow going so we can, because we are all connected and we all are community, and we just to realize our oneness and to support each other in
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, yeah. So I've been fortunate to have my body basically intact, although I had issues around my weight and body image for many, many years. And it wasn't really a disabled body, but in a lot of ways it was a disability in the
Yeah.
sense that it was
Oh,
addictive. It was, I was made fun of as a kid. I was very overweight.
mhm.
It definitely affected my self-esteem and how I felt about myself and my body.
Well, yeah, I mean, nowadays, depression can mean a disability. So
Yeah.
the more people talk about you, put you down, it puts you in a state, and then that could be a disability, depending on who you talk to or what your definition of disability is and what you think. So, and I have that too. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think at the core of this, what I've really learned in my life and in my healing and in my work with helping other men and women embrace more body confidence or confidence in themselves is that it's really about the way we perceive ourselves.
yeah,
No matter how we're showing up, whether
yeah,
we're overweight or underweight, or we have the use of all our limbs or not, it's how we perceive ourselves. And I think that when we realize that, we're all valuable, we're all worthy,
hmm,
and the way our bodies are has nothing really to do with our worthiness or our value. I mean, it brings us into being our unique selves.
yeah,
However, embracing that and not basing our self-esteem or our self-worth on how we physically look,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the interesting thing about that is when we embrace ourselves completely and really appreciate who we are, we have an inner shining that comes and it makes us very attractive,
yeah,
regardless of how, there are all kinds of, it's like there's all kinds of fruit, right? There's all kinds of people, and each one is beautiful in its own way. I know that sounds
yeah,
like such a,
hmm,
it's true, it's true. And I don't think we can see that in others when we can't see that in ourselves.
hmm,
Because when we are judging ourselves and putting ourselves down, it's really easy to judge others and see, what we perceive as somebody else's flaws or imperfections.
yeah,
So I appreciate you bringing this up, that it is, it is, there are disabilities. I think the insidiousness of people that have depression or a mental illness or even eating disorders. I mean, I work a lot with people with eating disorders, and is that it's sort of silent. Like a lot of times people don't even know that you're struggling. So you could
yeah,
sort of get away with it. And people think, oh, you're cool or you're confident or you have it all together, and really inside you're struggling or
yeah.
you're
Well,
feeling.
eating disorders are um, have a lot to do with mental health, also.
Mm,
That's all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. And that's been my training, and that's been my healing and recovery, that I've had multiple eating disorders, and this is why I do the work that I'm doing, because it's a different kind of disability.
Hmm.
As far as being my relationship to people that have had physical disabilities aside from, weight issues and things like that. I remember years ago when I was in college, I actually didn't, it was even before I was in college, I used to swim a lot. And there was this one woman who used to swim laps. She was a really good swimmer. It turned out she was a professor at the college I was at, but I had no idea because I used to see her in the pool all the time. But I didn't realize as she was in the pool, she was a very strong swimmer. But it turned out that she was disabled in the sense that she had, like, the bottom half of her body had no movement. Her whole swimming was her upper movement. So
Yeah.
she had a wheelchair. She had to get in and out of. She actually asked me for help one day to get out of the pool.
Hmm.
And but the thing that really impressed me about her was she was a strong swimmer. She was confident and capable, and she was not really ashamed. Like she had a sense of confidence and pride in herself,
Hmm.
and that really inspired me. And then it was interesting because a little while after that, I was taking a swimming course at college. They have to take certain gym electives. And
Hmm.
she turned out to be one of the coaches there, which I thought was pretty amazing. So it just reinforced this idea that when we have a good sense of who we are, nobody can keep us down, even if other people have judgments about us.
Yeah.
So the work is really, I believe, an inside job that we need to start to believe in ourselves, appreciate ourselves, support ourselves, and put ourselves around other people that can lift us up and realize who we are, the uniqueness, the beauty of who we are and what we bring.
I love that. When I was in college, I had a gym elective. I had to do weightlifting, and I used to uh, wheelchair race and swim. I love swimming. Uh, I used to do it for Olympic events when I was living in New York. I love swimming. It's a lot
Where
of
in
fun.
New York did you live?
I lived on Long Island, Shirley, Suffolk
Oh,
County.
that's right. We had that conversation because
We
I'm from
did.
Long Island too.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a long time to realize who you are and the goodness of who you are, and to learn not to put yourself down. Like
Yeah.
I'm just getting that now.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, I don't think kids do it at a very young age. I'm not sure at what age we start doing it to ourselves. I mean, some people start very young, but
As soon
it
as
is,
the outside world creeps in,
what's that?
it's as soon as the outside world creeps in and gives you different opinions.
Certainly. Yep. I remember a couple of years ago, one of my clients invited me to talk to her sixth graders about body image.
Mm-hmm.
And already the kids there, sixth grade, so what are they, 12,
Yeah.
11, 12 years old, already, I handed out little cards and I was like, write down 3 things positive about yourself. And one girl just looked at me and she said, I can't find anything. And she was a beautiful young girl. It's heartbreaking, right? And then there was a boy in there they're talking about steroids and bodybuilding, and I really just got a little deeper with them. I'm like, so what motivates all of this? And they said it's because we want to be accepted, and because we're being judged, and because there's a lot of pressure on kids to look a certain way
Mm-hmm.
or to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't look a certain way or act a certain way, kids can be cruel. They tease you and talk badly to you and talk about you, and I I hated high school. And
Yeah.
I mean, and not because people were mean, because they actually accepted me even though I was the only kid with a disability. But I just noticed that there were cliques,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to be a certain way to fit in, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great in our schools to have these conversations? Because I'm sure that there's a lot of kids that suffer because they feel different or they are being made fun of, or
Hmm.
to have these conversations in schools.
Yeah, oh yeah, they should. Every year they should have an assembly where they talk about that stuff and check in with kids and
Yeah.
how they're doing. I'm a big believer in self-checking sessions and asking yourself how you are, and like just like checking in with yourself, and like on many levels to like see if your mind's okay, and
Mm-hmm.
just seeing if you're happy, and seeing if you're on par with where you should be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great practice
Yeah, I think.
individually and then as a family. You have a partner. I think the check-in piece also with how the relationship is, and
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah. So what's
Um,
the one, can I ask you a question?
sure, go ahead.
So what's the one question that, or what are the one question that you appreciate being asked, if there is
Um,
one?
the one I like the most is, can I walk? Just because it allows me to explain like what I can and cannot do and why. I can walk with crutches. I don't normally. I'm normally in my chair because after about 2 hours, my back starts to hurt and I get dead tired. But I can walk with crutches, and I stand up when I go to the restroom or when I get in my car.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the main questions I get is, can I walk? Can I dress myself? Can I, can I walk? Can I dress myself? And can I have sex?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big ones,
And
which
so
is
you want to answer them?
funny. Yes and yes and hell yes.
That's a good one.
I just find that funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know everybody wants to be that personal, but they're like afraid to be,
But
which
you
is
get that question occasionally?
yeah, I do. I mean, because people think about it, and you can tell when people are looking at you and like shyly smiling. You know that they want to ask you a question, so you just approach them and dig and figure out what it is. And
Yeah.
like I'm the way I am, I'll answer anything. I don't care. You know, and it took me a while to get there.
Yeah. So at the beginning, it wasn't comfortable to be asked questions. Is that what you're saying? Or
Well, I'm a shy, introverted person to begin with, and like I said before, it took me a while to uh, feel good about myself and to not be not ashamed, but um, okay with my disability.
yeah.
Because now it is what it is. I can do what I can do, and I can do. The way I describe it is, I'm like everyone else. I'm just sitting down. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I would even suggest, because that was going to be my next question, that sometimes the things that are perceived disabilities actually become our greatest gifts. Like they force us to cultivate qualities. Like I know for me, having been brought up in a traumatic environment and using food to cope and then diet, having multiple eating disorders, even though there were many years of my life that were living hell, the other side of that is that I think that it's given me a sense of compassion, a sense of empathy. It's helped me to understand that form of mental illness. And of
Yeah.
course, that's what my work today is centered around, helping other people that struggle with those areas. Because, in I guess in line with Evan Carmichael, we both share that group Movement Makers, where our purpose comes out of our pain,
Yeah.
that we're not alone in our pain, but to me, even before I got involved with Movement Makers or knew, I felt that there's always a reason why I went through what I went through, and if I can help someone get out of their own hell and
Yeah.
live a life of more freedom, and it just has to, that would be the most gratifying thing for me, and it would make meaning out of the pain that I experienced, because I know that I'm not alone. I think many of us are living in our own levels of uncomfortability or emotional pain. And I think the emotional pain again is more insidious, because
Yeah.
it's an inner struggle, and sometimes people don't. I mean, we look at people like, I think of Robin Williams, who committed suicide. It's like, nobody really knew the level that he was. Or maybe people close to him did, and I know that they say comedians, that there's a lot of deep pain inside, but suicide rates are up like crazy. Depression is up like crazy. So it's really symptomatic of a lot of people are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And we might look okay on the outside, but not. So my long-winded question is, what do you see as your gifts, or the things that got cultivated or are continuing to be cultivated, that because of your life experience of being disabled, what's the fruit of that? What's the
Um,
gift in that you're bringing? I mean, just having these conversations, I could see as one of them, but what else do you notice?
well, the reason I think I was put on this earth was to know was one because I'm a writer, so writing, conversations, talking to people, interviewing people. Two big things that came out of my disability, I believe, are my ability to empathize with people and I'm a very good listener. I'm not a good converser. I don't perceive myself to be a good conversationalist. Like I don't. I'm because I'm quiet. I'm getting better, but I don't think I am. But other people do. But my empathy and listening and just the ability to give and take, and go back and forth, and understanding people is
Mm.
what I think I bring. Like I've been asked multiple times if I was able to not be in a wheelchair, would I like be able-bodied, be able to stand up, walk, whatever? And it's always no, because there's too many things that could be possibly ruined by that or
Can
change.
you
Or
repeat that
change.
again? You've been asked. Can you repeat that
I've been
again?
I've been asked multiple times if I could be able to walk and like it was able-bodied, and I didn't need the chair, would I do it? And it's always no, because there's too many things that could be different as a result of that. And I like my life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm yes, I'm disabled. Yes, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm lucky. There's a lot of things I've done that people are surprised at. I've done wheelchair basketball. I've done wheelchair events. When I was 19, I got to go to Ireland to go on an Irish youth team there. So, and that was a 2 week vacation.
That was with basketball?
No, it was just Olympic events. I went
Wow.
there, flew to Ireland, toured Dublin for 2 weeks,
Oh, wow.
and then did 4 wheelchair races. And I
Cool.
got three gold and one silver out of the deals. So I'm good. So yeah, I
Congratulations.
wouldn't change the thing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You talked about eating disorders.
Mm.
Can you talk more in detail about the different kinds?
Of eating disorders?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that it's I guess there's different levels of eating disorder. I think disordered eating and eating disorders now are recognized as a form of I guess it is a form of mental illness, but it's a serious problem. Most
Mm-hmm.
people with a full-fledged eating disorder need medical intervention to
Yeah.
become stable because um, so an eating disorder could be binge eating disorder where you're eating volumes of food and you're hurting your organs and you obviously will gain a lot of weight at a short amount of time or
Mm-hmm.
be consistently. So it can involve obesity. Common eating disorders, though, are anorexic, which we know is severe underweight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very dangerous because when you're under eating and you're so thin, you can have a heart attack at any time.
Yeah.
And then there's bulimia, which really messes up. Bulimia is people that induce vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Okay.
much more prevalent than you realize. I think that, over the years, it's funny, I was chatting with somebody the other day that this stuff still is a little taboo and people are not comfortable talking about it because there's a lot of shame around it and people don't always talk about struggling with these things. But I think, like when Princess Diana came out and said she had an eating disorder, or when celebrities come out and say that they have an eating disorder, it actually helps other people to recognize that maybe they do have a problem,
Yeah.
or to recognize that it's okay to out yourself because we're sick as our secrets, and when we hide ourselves because we feel shamed or we feel uncomfortable about who we are, we only get sicker. And so the healing of any kind of problem, I believe, is, I mean, you don't want to necessarily share it with people that aren't sensitive or kind, but to come out and to share what you're struggling with is the beginning of bringing some air to it, bringing some freshness to it, and bringing some healing to it, some resolution to it. So I was never hospitalized because of eating disorders. I grew up very overweight as a child. And
Mm-hmm.
then about 11 or 12, I started dieting. And that took on a whole life of its own. I became addicted to diet pills, and I became addicted to dieting. And because I was overweight, I never really saw myself as thin enough. And through that process, I became severely underweight. I wasn't hospitalized, but I was amenorrhea, which meant I didn't get my moon cycle for 2 years because I my body wasn't, because what happens is if a woman's not doesn't have enough fat in her body, the body won't produce the egg, the whole.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, it's not uncommon for women that are under eating or underweight to not get their cycle, because your body's sort of prepubescent. You hold, your hormones are not working properly. There's not enough fat in your body to carry a child. So
Hmm.
nature sort of takes over. So I was afraid to eat because I was, my life went between being out of control with food to controlling food.
Hmm.
So anorexic is sort of the other side of the coin of being out of control. And a
Hmm.
lot of it has to do with feeling out of control in your life. And when you grow up with trauma, or my mother had mental illness, there's a lot of feelings of out of control in your childhood. And so medicating, using food to medicate,
Hmm.
in hindsight was sort of a way to take care of myself, to protect myself. And I believe that as I got older and started to recover and heal from that it was needed at that time in my life. So
Hmm.
it was something that, like I said, helped me to navigate that environment. But of course, as you get older and it just progresses and gets worse, then it becomes more harmful than helpful. And I
Hmm.
think that, like, that's common with most addictions. I specialize in helping people with addictive behaviors because I think most addictions is we're trying to fill a void, we're trying to numb ourselves, run away from ourselves.
Yeah.
And so creating safety within ourselves, creating safety in our lives is the beginning of healing. So eating disorders, there's a gamut. And in our culture today, we have a lot of people that have disordered eating that are not full-fledged eating disorders, right? People struggle with food addiction easily. I
Yeah.
mean, especially because the food industry really laces our food to make them highly addictive. But the other piece of it is that, so it's easy to get addicted to certain foods if they put certain things in it, because what it does is it makes them super palatable, and it spikes
Hmm.
your your hormones to make you want more, right?
Yeah.
So um but but aside from that, I think that it's also different than any other addictive substance, is that we have to learn to eat regularly. It's not like, okay, I'm going to quit drinking, I just put the cork in the bottle, or okay, I'm going to quit drugs or even smoking and just stop. You
Hmm.
have to eat. So you have to learn how to have a healthier relationship with food.
Hmm.
And I believe, and what I teach to my clients and students, is it comes from a place of self-respect. When you
Yeah.
truly respect yourself, then you want to be respectful in the way you feed yourself. And so the diet industry is a major money-making industry in our culture. And unfortunately, people get hooked into it easily because we have this belief that, oh, if I just find the perfect diet, then I'm going to have the perfect weight, and then I'm going to be loved, and I'm going to be happy and happily ever after. But the truth is that I don't believe there's one perfect diet for everyone. And I think that part of this journey of healing our relationship with food is to first learn who we are and what we need. And then there's a lot of great advice out there, but does this work for me, my body right now, in where I'm at? So it's learning how to trust yourself again, because we've stopped trusting ourselves and even being able to feed ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so, the people that I mostly work with, they may not be hospitalized or in severe needing medical attention, but they're still their behavior around food and their weight and their sense of body image is troubling them, impacting them so much that it's affecting the quality of their lives.
Hmm.
When somebody is emotionally eating or have food addiction, and they can't I mean, when I was in the throes of my food addiction, I would be so numb with food, I couldn't focus. It would be like being drunk
Yeah.
because you're just so numb. If you've ever had like a sugar hangover, you know, I mean, people that have had them know exactly what I'm talking about. You can't really be present. You can't really
Hmm.
be focused.
Yeah.
So um, I think that in answer to your question, there's a lot of variations of what we can look at today as an eating disorder. Certainly, medical supervision when you have the severity of severe underweight, severe overweight, or things like bulimia mess up your whole digestive system. It takes years to heal from that. And but the healing is possible. I mean, we have amazing bodies that are very, very resilient. And when we start to put in the good stuff, which I believe, a big believer in, even with dieting, I help people also release excess weight. But the first rule of thumb is to put in the good stuff. Before you take out anything, you want to put in the good stuff, good foods, good, healthy, a lot
Yeah.
of water. And as you fill yourself with the good stuff, not only in food, but in relationships and experiences, the more you put in the good stuff, it's easier to say no to the stuff that's not serving you as well, you know?
I believe.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, you know that I work with, I do a process called emotional freedom techniques. I'm a EFT. It's also known as tapping, which has been shown to change the brain. It helps the neurostructure of the brain to change the patterns and the habits that result in emotional eating or addictive behaviors. So I'm pretty well trained in a lot of those mind body practices that can not only help us to understand, but it can actually enable us to change. Because it's one thing knowing and another thing being able to apply what you learn.
Yeah.
So I love yesterday. Did you go to the Built to Serve with Zan yesterday?
No, I wasn't there. No.
Yeah, I made it. I don't make it every week, but one of the things he said, which I love that he said it is, um, as coaches, because we're coaching people, you want inspiration, information, and then he said, what is it? Inspiration, information, implementation.
Yeah.
So
He's
really,
big, he's big on those words that have the same letter.
right. But the implementation is what creates the transformation because you have to take the steps, you have to take the action in order to change, right?
Yeah.
So it might simply be changing your thought patterns because our thought patterns are really the mindset that enable us to step into things. Like you've been saying, oh, I'm a shy person, but here you are hosting a program, right?
Yeah.
So you took actions to get over that shyness, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. I'm just that's just the way I've always been. So I'm used to repeating that same story. It's just what I'm trying to change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just like it's an interruption into your thought process.
So what's the news story?
I'm a I'm an empowered writer and interviewer who is trying to change the world.
I love it. Who is changing the world?
Yeah.
I
Trying,
love it. Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah. I think we're all trying that. I love that. Well, I think telling your new story, because
Mm-hmm.
the things we say to ourselves become habitual. Sometimes we don't even realize that,
Oh,
you know. I know
totally.
with my clients, sometimes I say, well, I'm learning how to be more outgoing. I'm learning because if sometimes they say I'm outgoing and say that doesn't feel true,
Mm-hmm.
and say I'm learning how, but I think that it sounds simplistic, but the words we use and the way we describe ourselves are very powerful. And ultimately, transformation is about seeing ourselves different and then having the courage to step into that in a
Mm-hmm.
way where that's where the implementation right comes and that's where the transformation comes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I hope I answered your question about, I know you asked about eating
Yeah,
disorders.
you did. You did. Where do you think your uh body issues started, or like your eating disorders, or like your outlook on life with yourself started?
Yeah. Well, I know that what we believe about ourselves and the world and other people is really the foundation of the world that we live in. I think we
Yeah.
all live in like a holographic universe, and we all project into the world our beliefs.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie The Truman Show?
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
great quote in there I love. We accept the reality with which we are presented, or we are given. I
Yeah.
love that. And it's true.
It's true. It's true. So, at this stage of my life, I think that I know my early childhood had a lot to do with a lot of my low self-esteem issues, not feeling like I was enough, not feeling like I was valuable. The work that I do now with myself and with my clients is that I think that it starts even before we come into this life, that we bring beliefs, we bring, certain things run through our ancestry,
Hmm.
and I think we're in an amazingly powerful time right now on the planet as human beings, because we can change that, we can shift that, we can transform that. And as a matter of fact, I believe that if we don't transform it, we transmit it. And like I've had many times where mothers will come to me and they're like, "Oh, help my child, help my child." But the truth of the matter is that if a parent works on their own stuff, they're
Hmm.
going to
Yeah.
shift. They're going to help their child much more than having their child get fixed, whatever that looks like.
True. Yeah.
Um, I remember, this is going on a tangent, if that's okay, because I
That's
think
fine.
this is relevant to what I'm talking about. I
It's all
have to
good.
keep me on track because I remember a few years ago, so I told you I do emotional freedom techniques and tapping. And I had a woman contact me from Portland, and her 19-month-old would not go in the car seat. The child would go completely ballistic. She couldn't drive anywhere because it was
Mhm.
impossible. The child would slide out of the car seat. And so she was at her wit's end, and she tried all kinds of therapies and nothing was working. So she heard about my work and she contacted me, and she said, "I don't know, maybe this is something that's coming through me." She said, "I have had some car accidents and maybe the
Mhm.
child is picking that up." We worked on her trauma around car accidents. And in 3 sessions, the child actually asked to get into the car seat because the mother was not projecting that anymore. And the mother wasn't consciously projecting it. And
Yeah.
it was one thing, she knew she had issues around it, but another thing that she was emanating, she was vibrating that. So
Yeah.
that's what we had to clear up. So the point in all of that is that, as I can look back at my childhood and say, this is when this happened and this is how I started to feel, and these patterns that, my father's lineage had or my mother's lineage had, I see them showing up in my life now. I don't always feel, sometimes it's good to know where it began, but I think what's most important in order to transform is to embrace taking responsibility for it, not out of blame, but out of saying, okay, I'm holding these patterns in me.
Mhm.
I'm not a victim. I'm just it's not, nobody's done anything to me. Maybe people have tried, but it's really I'm allowing it, and to embrace how I'm showing up, and to start working on clearing that within me that's
Yeah.
holding me back from living my best self, from holding me back to saying yes to my life. And that
Mhm.
looks like, the limiting beliefs or the fears we project, or when we're perceiving others to be judging us, it's usually because we're projecting judgment in some way.
Yeah.
So I know this is sort of a long-winded answer to, when did I start to see, I mean, growing up as an overweight kid, I certainly was made fun of. And that's when I started to really hate my body, because I blamed my body. I felt like my body was the reason for getting all of that abuse, and so I played out a lot of anger towards my body, and I would go on restrictive diet. I thought that if I was thin, that I would be happy, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be made fun of. And when I was thinner, yes, I there was a certain satisfaction in it, but there was also a lot of inner turmoil because it wasn't an organic thinness. It was more of like, I was just I was willing it. I was making it
Mhm.
happen. It wasn't in alignment with my body, mind, and spirit, and there
Yeah.
wasn't kind of a place of self-respect. But I have to say that healing myself and my relationship with my body has been a process of um, learning how to do that, because like I said, it was at a very young age I learned to blame myself and my body, and I think not only in regards to weight and body image, but even the emotional issues in our life. When we're children, we believe that when the adults in our life can't love us the way we need them to be loved, in our children's minds, we think there's something wrong with us, that
Hmm.
we're not lovable enough, or we're doing something wrong. Or, I mean, sometimes people would say things. I mean, I had relatives when I was a kid say, be good so mommy doesn't get sick. My mother had nervous breakdowns. I
Oh,
could
wow.
never be good enough to stop my mother from getting into a mental institute. But I want to tell you, as a child, you take that to heart. And then you grow up thinking, maybe if I were better, then this person would be happy. We
Yeah.
bring it to our relationships. So I think that as we get older and we want to consciously make changes, we want to start to observe how we're playing out those old stories, those old patterns. And like we spoke about, and what's the new story I want to tell? What's the new empowered story I want to tell? And what needs to be shifted within me to start to see myself as a more expansive, capable, competent human being who can value myself and my body, not so much as in a narcissism way, but it's like this body's a tool to serve. And I believe just like Evan says, I believe the same thing, that we're all built to serve. Our highest purpose is in service to others. And so we take care of ourselves so we can be these vessels of service. And of course, we want to be gratified and experience pleasure in our own right, because I believe we've been created for that. But the other piece of it is that if you make that the core of yourself, then that's the reason to break through all of those limiting beliefs that we grow up with, that limiting way of seeing ourselves.
I love that. How did you start to help yourself to go from this overweight kid to who you are now?
Yeah, so by the time I was 18 or 19 years old, I knew that I needed help. I knew that I needed help. I had a lot of emotional pain. I had a lot of, addictions around food and dieting, and I had relationship addictions. And even though on some level there was denial, there was also a lot of emotional turmoil and pain. And somehow I started on the quest of like reading self-help books and attempted to, get therapy, but I felt like I felt like I needed a spiritual foundation as well.
Hmm.
Because I remember going to a therapist at a young age, and they basically told me that my future would be just like my mother's, mental illness, and I wasn't going to buy that. I believed that there was something more for me.
Hmm.
So I think my quest for inner healing and ultimately making peace with myself and my body and my life, and started probably 18 or 19 years old.
Okay.
And actually it came with sort of a spiritual birth of like feeling like there had to be something more. And I didn't really have a belief in higher power and God at that time, but I was in so much pain that I didn't know where else to turn. I had already tried therapy, I had tried self-help books. So it was around that time that I experienced sort of like a spiritual rebirth, I guess. And that began my journey into body, mind, and spirit work. And it certainly wasn't a straight path. I mean, I'm 65 years old now, so it's been many years, and the journey has been growth. And I believe that this is transformation. Doesn't happen in a linear. We grow and then we regress, and we grow and we regress, and really, it's all
Yeah.
about learning about yourself. But I think that I was always attracted to the threefold: body, mind, and spirit coming into alignment. That and so that's been my journey. That's been the bulk of my trainings. You know, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a mindfulness practitioner, I do emotional freedom techniques. And then I'm also a food psychology coach, and I studied in addictive behaviors. I have a pretty big resume of learning, of
Hmm.
educational background, because I was wanted to solve my problem.
Yeah.
I knew that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and I wasn't going to stop until I was gifted, I guess, with this perseverance to solve it, you know?
Yeah.
And and so I do believe that there you know, the healing process has been a practice of learning myself, striving for more self-acceptance and love. And even, I mean, today it's so funny. I taught a yoga class today. I haven't formally taught yoga in a couple of years. I did a little bit last year, 2 years ago. I think since COVID, I haven't taught anything. So I
Yeah.
taught an in-person yoga class today. I haven't formally taught yoga in a long time. It was wonderful. I mean, I hadn't seen these people in person for a long time. I hadn't really taught yoga in a long time. I was feeling excited, but I was also feeling nervous. And then more people showed up than I had expected. And that was wonderful. It was really wonderful. And halfway through the program, I'm like, I got like, I lost track of, like, was it the right leg? Was it the left leg? And I made fun of it because that's what I do. I mean, you know, I'm like, okay, which leg did I say last time? And everybody like helped me out, you know?
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. It flowed and it wonderful. But you know, it's interesting because coming home afterwards, I was really excited and exhilarated. But then that like little voice creeps in, like ready to like overly critique me. I mean, critique is good, right? But
Yeah.
overly critique me to the point where I was going to diminish, you know, the reason I did it was I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve my clients. I wanted to serve, and I thought it would be fun to do it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
generally, everybody enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah. Good. That's
But
good.
I saw that, you know, those voices can easily creep in. Not enough, not enough, you know. So it's an ongoing process and an ongoing practice for me.
Yeah.
And as I was sharing before, outing myself, telling like even sharing this with you right now, it's like, yeah, that little gremlin wants to pull me down. And I know it wasn't perfect, but my intention was good. And if I helped one person today feel better about themselves and have more peace in their life, then I did my job.
Okay. That's good. I was curious, other than the EFT, when you have a client or someone you work with, what is the process of what you do? Is it just like back and forth talking about their problem or their issue or what you want to help them with?
Yeah. So typically when somebody comes to me, they've either been referred by somebody else because I've helped them to release some struggles in their life,
Hmm.
or they've heard about maybe EFT tapping, and it's gotten a lot of good press the last few years. There's a lot of research articles been published. There's even been brain scans about it. So basically, if somebody's struggling with a problem in their life, I help them to go deeper into getting to some of the core reasons why it's coming up. So I typically will have I always do a free consultation just to identify what the problem is that the person is struggling with, and if I could potentially help them, and if there is if we're a fit, you know, if I feel like I can work with them, if they feel like they can work with me, then we go to the next level of, you know, say somebody's having difficulty sleeping or somebody's having difficulty in their relationship. And of course, I specialize in helping women with food, weight, and body image. Then I would go to, I have some coaching practice packages, but I also have like a 10-week immersion, which is not only one-on-one coaching with me, it's also videos and audios and writing journal prompts to get to the root of their problems in that area, because it's not a quick fix.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't think
But
so.
say the person comes to me struggling with whatever it could be. I mean, I've had people come to me with pornography addictions, you know, so it's an addiction, right?
Yeah.
So we start with the problem, and then I if we feel like we're a good fit, I will send them an in-depth questionnaire to just get a little deeper about, what it is what they think is, why it's happening,
Hmm.
what, how it's affecting their lives, what have they tried in the past. But typically, my work is cognitive somatic, meaning it's mind body. So we usually will start addressing experiences and how you feel in your body around certain things.
Hmm.
There's a lot of times if there's an addiction, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, so we start working on the energy around that.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's coaching in the sense that I'm asking the questions, I'm holding the space, but it's a lot of helping the person to get their inner ahas, their inner awarenesses of like if you have a problem showing up in your life today and and you have a strong reaction to it, it's
Hmm.
likely there's an expression, if you're hysterical, it's likely that it's historical.
Hmm.
So a lot of times we might have to go back to the genesis event, like the first event that created the problem in the first place, the problem where you started to believe there was something wrong with you or you're not valuable enough.
Yeah.
So all of that's available with processes like tapping. And so it's sort of like we're going a little deeper. And I teach them things that they can do daily
Hmm.
so that they can start to calm down their brain, calm down their body. And then we have action steps every week. So it's inspiration, information, right?
Yeah.
Implementation. What are
Mm.
you going to do this week to make the shift? Like I'm working with somebody right now around confidence. And so the next step is contacting some friends and going out with them, and so we do some visioning around that. We do some feeling into it, releasing any blocks to doing that.
Hmm.
And yeah, so my coaching is beyond just giving people advice or listening to them.
Yeah.
We go deeper in that. We clear the blockages that keep them. So if somebody keeps procrastinating or putting things off, it's likely that there's fear there. There's deeper fear there, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like for instance, I could have somebody who's doing really great, they're eating healthy, they're doing really well, and all of a sudden they abandon it, right? They
Yeah.
stop doing it. So it might look like the knee-jerk reaction is a person wants to beat themselves up, but they might say, I don't have enough willpower, or there's something wrong with me. Where I guide my clients to go a little deeper in, like, maybe you're hitting a hot button here. Maybe if you're more attractive, that might affect your relationship. Maybe if you're not struggling in this area and you're treating yourself with more respect,
Hmm.
that might threaten your relationship, right? I mean, I've been working with someone who's been coming to me and making nice progress, but he actually said, like, he's worried that his wife is going to feel jealous, that he's getting healthy, that he's getting better. So these are real issues that people have. And because we're social beings, those are the things that it's not that you don't have enough willpower, you're not strong enough. There's a fear there that those that are near and dear to you and who love you are going to abandon you. They're going to be angry with you. Those are the things that keep us stuck.
Hmm. Yeah.
So those are the areas that we want to work on clearing up, releasing those fears, finding ways to communicate with our loved ones, having courage to step in. And of course, transformation means we change. And that also means that our relationships are forced to change.
Hmm.
Of
Yeah.
course, either they have to go away if they've been based on you not feeling good about yourself, or they have to evolve into a higher level of being with each other. So, and that's the scary part for us as human beings, because we need each other, we want each other,
Hmm.
and so change is not only uncomfortable for us, but it's also change when the people that are near to us are witnessing us changing. They're feeling scared too.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you don't, people always want to identify with who they think they are. And when people who they love change, they sometimes people get threatened by that.
Yes, of course. It is threatening because it's not threatening that maybe they don't want your best interest at hand, but we're stepping into the unknown now. Like anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
When we're in enmeshed relationships, there's a level of control there. And so we want to bring it to a higher level of love. We have no control over another human being, no matter how close, if we've given birth to them, we have no control. I mean, we have responsibility, but we have no control. And that could feel really vulnerable, right? Because we can open our hearts to people and still have no control over, that. I mean,
Mm.
I've lost my parents. I've lost marriages. That's painful. That's painful. But the
Yeah.
bottom line is that, you know, holding yourself through that pain and coming out the other side makes you strong. But sometimes it's
Yeah.
not a conscious thing. So my point is, though, that if we're sabotaging ourselves or we're having difficulty in one area, beating yourself up about it or pushing harder, which is a common thing we do here in the West, is not typically the answer. It's going deeper and looking at it a little differently,
Mm-hmm.
which will actually give you the sustainable solution to more of an organic change
Mm.
so
I
that
love that.
you can be your best self. So for instance, if somebody was struggling with confidence, my first question to them would say, well, give me an example of how your lack of confidence shows up in your life. And we go specifically to the event. And
Mm-hmm.
then we start circling around the event and talking about, well, how does that feel? How do you feel? Or even if you were to look at yourself as if you're watching a movie, how does that person feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we start from there, and then we sort of unravel, and we get to working on the beliefs, because it's really our beliefs that need to be changed in order to align with our highest self.
Mm. I love that.
The belief that we are, because we have a lot of false premises. First of all, we all worthy and valuable. A
Mm.
lot of us don't learn that in our lives,
Yeah.
just for being, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think vulnerability is a good is good. I always say that vulnerability is a good place to grow.
Yes, it is.
Because if you guard it, you can watch and make sure that bad things don't get in, but you can also let all the good in.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, because when we stop letting in, we stop letting in everything, right? So if we're holding up blocks to the pain, we're also holding up blocks to the good stuff. So we have to be able to embrace our pain
Mm-hmm.
and hold ourselves when we're in it.
Yeah.
And, I think that joy and pain are sort of, the deeper our pain, the greater our capacity for joy. The pain is what builds capacity in us.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to add, like where you're at on social, what you're going to now, what you're doing?
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. So appreciate you holding this space for me. And
Of course.
so, I'm still learning Instagram and learning how to do more lives on Instagram. And the whole social media thing has been an interesting ride for me.
I'm enjoying the lives and social media. I'm addicted to the lives now because once you do it and you get used to it, it's just easy.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy the lives very much also.
Hmm.
It's been fun to do that. I've been working. My intention this since January was growing my YouTube channel, and that's really why I joined Movement Makers.
Yeah,
Um,
I love your
so
thumbnails.
you like my thumbnail?
I love your thumbnails.
Thank you. Thanks so
You're
much. Yeah, learning how to
welcome.
do all this. I'm like a one-man show here, a one-woman show. But I'm learning. Since COVID, I gave up my physical office, although I may be taking one again because I'm still seeing local clients. I bring them into my house now. But I'm also been, wanting to. I do work. I've always worked all over the world.
Hmm.
Even before COVID, I worked as far as Israel and Australia. but I also like the benefit of getting in person. So the YouTube channel is one that I've been learning how to grow more. And that was really the reason why I joined Movement Makers. So I'm committed. I do make 3 videos a week now. I did Evan's challenge of 10 videos in 2 weeks. It was a lot. It was a lot for me on many levels because it was a different format than I usually do. And it was powerful, but it all happened to be during my fast. So I happen to be a Baha'i, and in the Baha'i faith, we have a fasting period. It's a 19-day fast. It's sort of like Ramadan, but we don't go 19 days without eating. We just don't eat or drink from sun up to sundown.
Okay.
So the challenge was right in the middle of the fast.
Hmm.
So it was a double challenge for me because during the fast, it's not only that you're refraining from food throughout the day or drink throughout or water or drink liquid throughout the day,
Yeah.
but it's a really, so we get up sunrise, before the sun comes up, we eat and drink, and then when the sun goes down. But it's also sort of a spiritual, you're refraining from materialism as much as you can in this world, and
Yeah.
being a householder and doing that. But it's also like my level of being sharp by the afternoon is gone.
Not bad.
So I had to window making my videos in a certain time because,
Yeah.
especially with dry mouth or not being able to focus, for me, it's a very spiritually powerful time. And I usually don't put like challenges like that on myself during the fast, but because he offered it at that time. So it was a way to just like, I feel sort of proud of myself that I rose to it. I did the 10 videos.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during that time that I did it. So it was a double challenge for me. And like anything else, when we challenge ourselves, that's what builds self-esteem, right? That's what
Yeah.
builds self-confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That builds
So,
self-esteem, self-discipline. Yeah.
yes, yes. So in answer to your question, I'm on Instagram, Body Confidence Solutions. If anybody's interested in learning more about me or my work, I'm also have a YouTube channel, Body Confidence Solutions with Maria LiPuma. I'm on Facebook, and yeah, so that's where I am right now. I've been I actually like Instagram more than I like Facebook,
Bit of
although I have more of a history on Facebook, but I have a private group on Facebook, and
mm-hmm.
I also have
Yeah.
a free ebook.
I have my Wheels and Warriors on Facebook. There's
Oh, you do? Friends on Facebook, yes. And like I said, I'm learning how to engage more on Instagram right now,
mm-hmm.
and we'll see how it goes. This is the spring. It's a new year. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of contrast. I think that as things are crumbling, and that the opportunities are great also. You
Yeah.
know, I'm a real nerd for epigenetics and the brain neurostructure, and I love that stuff because it speaks to an organic change in human beings. And
Uh,
when we can change organically, then we can change one soul at a time, and then the collective consciousness changes.
I love that. I haven't gotten too much into it, but I do love the neuroscience, and I find the brain fascinating and how it can change.
Yeah, we're living at a very exciting time. On the one hand, yes, there's a lot of pain and suffering and destruction and trauma, and on the other side of that, there are solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we're in this process. It's almost like children of the half light, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
we
have 5 more questions for you, if you don't mind.
oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
So
All right. What one thing in life would you eliminate for yourself or the people do you know and love?
one thing I would eliminate for myself.
Or you're for yourself or people you love?
Hmm. Oh gosh, I think I don't know about. I do feel like I'm learning that everything has value, even the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing that pains me most is when we have difficulty valuing ourselves. So I think the elimination would be that that critical part of
Yeah.
us.
Critical self-talk.
Critical self-talk, critical other talk,
Yeah.
when we have the need to talk badly about or to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing for positive, for feedback and critique. I think that's valuable, but
There's a difference.
yes, criticism with a mean intent. So I think meanness. I think I'd like to see more caring
Hmm. I
for
used to
each
do
other.
music reviews like, years ago,
A
and
what?
I used to do like I had an arts and culture blog years ago, so I used to do reviews of like concerts, albums, EPs, plays, musicals, that kind of thing. But if a play or a concert or an album was bad, I used to tell it like it is, but end it on a good note.
It's great.
You can have light with the dark without the light. It has to be
Yeah,
good and bad. Yep,
yeah,
there has to be a mix.
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What one thing in life makes you smile?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of things, but the thing that's up for me now is I am blessed with three beautiful grandchildren. And my daughter, actually, you liked my story today. That's my youngest grandchild,
Okay.
Ambika Rose. And her smiley
Uh,
face and her cuteness and the things she says just make me smile.
yeah. And you have a great smile.
Oh, thank you, Michael. That's sweet.
You're welcome. What is your happy place?
Oh gosh, my happy place is at the ocean.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't get there enough.
Yeah.
The Pacific is a little colder for me. I try to get to New York once a year and go to the Atlantic Ocean.
Where are
I love
you?
the beach. What's that?
Where are you?
Well, I'm in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, but my sister still lives in New York, and I like the ocean. I lived in Long Beach. Do you know Long Beach?
I've been there. Yeah. My wife's
Yeah.
from San Diego.
No, Long Beach, New York.
Oh, Long Beach, New York. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Heard of that, but never been.
it's a really sweet little town, like on the beach. I used to ride my bicycle. This was after I got divorced, and I lived there by myself, and I had a cute little place. Just ride my bike to the beach.
Mm.
That's my happy place. I miss that.
Yeah, I do love the beach. Yeah. What message would you want to give the world?
What message? I think that I think that this is a message that a lot of us are sharing. I think that when we really know that we are one, that we are unified, and we are one, and justice and equity, and that know that the more we can raise each other up, the more as a body we can, as a human body politic,
Mm.
we can all thrive. That the suppression or the oppression of any sentient being is we're harming ourselves. And I think we'll evolve as human beings to realize how we are harming ourselves when we hurt others.
Hmm.
I don't think we totally get that yet. I mean,
Yeah.
some people do, because we talk about karma, or we really do hurt ourselves when we hurt others.
Yeah.
So,
We feel guilt. Uh, we just feel guilt and we feel bad, and that creates more self-talk.
yeah, on so many levels. So I think the message is that, not to feel threatened by, that we've all been created from the same dust,
Hmm.
and that to put ourselves over another. And really, I believe that our greatest station is one of servitude.
Yeah.
The more we can be of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. Okay, one more. What makes you feel empowered?
What makes me feel empowered is I think doing service. I feel like I'm living my purpose when I'm lifting someone up, when I'm helping someone,
Yeah, I get
when
that.
when I get out of myself and I just can be there listening. You talked about how you are a strong listener,
Hmm.
and I think that that's the greatest gift you can give to anyone. I'm learning how to be a better listener.
Hmm.
Um, but I think just holding space for people and bringing love. Right now, I'm actually doing another certification. I have this thing, so I'm doing the heart math, resilient heart. It's for trauma sensitive
Hmm.
heart math. Are you familiar with the Institute of Heart Math?
No.
Yeah, it's an amazing. You should watch some of their videos. Heart math is an amazing. Um, well, it's an institute now in California, and they have the science behind how, how our heart,
Hmm.
energy of our heart affects everybody. It affects the vibration of the planet, and of course, when we're traumatized, that affects our heart also, and the nature of my work is I help people to release a lot of deep, whether it's their own trauma or ancestral trauma, because it's showing up in our world today. It's
Yeah.
not an accident that it's coming out. It's good that it's coming out on the one hand because it's not hidden, but on the other hand, um, the way to heal it is to start to embrace it and address it. But anyway, I got off on the tangent. I forgot what led me here. Oh, that I'm doing this training with heart math. What was your question again?
What makes you feel empowered?
Oh, being of service.
um, my first long-term relationship, I was in it was 5 years, and she was very verbally, psychologically, and emotionally abusive. So
Mm.
I definitely know trauma.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. Right?
Yeah,
It took me years, but I got over it. The
yeah.
worst thing was like two things. We would argue, and because I'm quiet, she would yell, and I would like clam up and like
Mm,
close off, and that would make her even more mad, which would make it worse. And one of the last two arguments that we had, she said to me, "You're not a man," which
mm,
is like one of the worst things you can say to a guy. So it took years, but I'm okay. But I
hmm.
definitely get trauma.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hold your heart when you say that.
Yeah. But I'm married now, and she's awesome, so I'm good. I'm
Wonderful.
happy.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Good to hear.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Michael. I really appreciate
You're.
you. It's
I
been
agree.
wonderful
Yeah.
it's one of the highlights of joining Movement Makers is to become friends with you and to just meet so many wonderful people.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this. I've liked talking to you too.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Have a great. I'm still early. It's 2:45. Oh, we're still in Pacific, with the same
We're,
Pacific time.
it's 2:45 here.
That's what I got.
Okay.
You're in Vegas, right?
I'm in Vegas. Yes.
Yeah. So we have
Yeah.
the same time zone.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael. Love you. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye. Well, thank you to Maria LiPuma, Body Confidence Solutions, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining our cast, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.